Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He is the chief strategist for the MAGA Coalition and a former deputy assistant to the President of the United States. And so, Dr. G, we might get one of the signature wins of this early administration if the president does what we think he's going to do, and that's decertify the Iran deal. We know that H.R. McMaster is on Capitol Hill. He's briefing members of Congress. I'm wondering if he's trying to maybe woo members of Congress to stand up to the president, because we know McMaster likes the deal, much more of a globalist type guy, the national security advisor. And the announcement has been delayed until tomorrow. But are we still looking good? Is this still looking like a win for the home team?
Yes, absolutely. So the president is committed to withdrawing us from the deal. The only question is right now, well, to decertifying. So he is, as he was the last time, he went against his better judgment, but he didn't understand why we had to certify last time. I predict with confidence that he will decertify this time, and the only question is, will he withdraw us completely from this disastrous deal? I dearly hope so.
Okay, so what does that mean for us? And Frank Gaffney warned yesterday of a potential bait and switch where you decertify, but there is still an opportunity for the deal to stay in place in certain ways. And this is something that I'm concerned about. That decertifying without killing it entirely is a bait and switch. Obviously, you guys are much more expert on these topics than I am. So just give me your thoughts. What is Gaffney talking about?
Right. So if it's a simple decertification, if the president says Iran is not in compliance with key technical aspects of the deal, then a 60-day window opens for Congress to do the so-called snapback of the original nuclear sanctions on Iran. It's not automatic. They can shape it as they wish, and that is the danger that Frank's talking about, that they're going to water it down or they're not going to reimpose it because of the swamp creatures and our European allies saying it would be a bad deal. So what I've recommended, I have a piece coming out today, is the president will decertify, I'm sure of that. Then, at the same time, to have a double whammy, he should do what he has been mandated to do by the Sanctions Act of August this year, which he already signed, which is to designate the Iranian Republican Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. This is an organization that has cost the lives of scores of U.S. servicemen and women, that is a terrorist actor across the whole region. Then he sends a very clear message that not only is this deal that we've inherited a disastrous deal, we are going to take the fight to the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world today, and the designation of the IRGC would send that message. So that's what I'm writing about today, and that's what I dearly hope the president is going to do.
It's really good stuff. Dr. Sebastian Gorka is my guest. We've also got the Supreme Court throughout a challenge to the president's quote-unquote travel ban. I'm sure various other challenges will crop up because that was a challenge to one of the original plans. The plan's since been expanded. So I'm sure the Supreme Court will see it again. But these are, at least on the national security front, these are significant victories for the MAGA side of the White House.
Yeah, if you look at just national security and the economy, things are, if you look at just the last 8 months of this administration, what is it? Yesterday was the 47th stock market record, historic record. You look at the 73% decrease in illegal migration without us building the wall, and the president will build the wall. You look at the fact that we are literally stacking ISIS fighters like cordwood in Iraq and Syria. If you look at the revitalization of NATO, the withdrawal from the Paris Accords, these are monumental successes in less than the first year of the president in office. The big challenge remains, however, what the GOP swamp dwellers have failed to bring to the table, which is, of course, the Obamacare repeal and replace, and the potential for some kind of scuttling of the tax reform that the president discussed last night. So massive successes on national security and economics. But now we need to see whether the people who call themselves conservatives on the Hill are actually going to support the agenda that we elected the president to execute on November the 8th.
Now, Dr. G, I know that you're mostly a national security guy, but you keep a good eye on the culture, as do most Breitbartians. And you had an incredible line yesterday where you said that Harvey Weinstein should have obeyed Mike Pence's rule for meeting with the opposite sex. And this is one thing that actually, in all seriousness, it's a funny line, but in all seriousness, it's something that I'm happily married. I met my wife in high school, and I'm very much happily married. But it is something that Mike Pence actually showed some leadership there, because I did consider whether or not it actually is appropriate to have a meal one-on-one with another woman. And that's something that I don't think I'll enforce that on myself quite as stringently as Mike Pence does, but it is good food for thought. That is good leadership. And the heckle of Harvey Weinstein with that, when the media was so outraged that Mike Pence had that opinion, I think is pretty devastating and brilliant.
Well, thank you kindly. I know it made liberal heads explode everywhere, given the response on Twitter to my tweet. But it wasn't what I was doing there. I was shining a spotlight on the hypocrisy of the left and the mainstream media, that they lambast the morals of the vice president when they actually spike the stories about a sexual predator for decades. And one thing I want to point out that really occurred to me over this furore of Weinstein's behavior. Now, the left-wing virtue signaling individuals are talking about how we have to have a culture that respects women and how we have to push back. We have that culture. It's on the right. It's what they've been trying to destroy for 35 years. So the irony of them calling for the kinds of things that they have actually tried to destroy by their value systems and the stuff they've been shoving down our throats in the media since the 1970s, the irony couldn't be higher.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Dr. Sebastian Gorka is with me. You know his voice very well, chief strategist for the MAGA Coalition and former deputy assistant to the president of the United States. And one thing that's amazing here, looking at the Iran deal, looking at some of the progress we're making, I'm just looking at the news cycle where it's so hot right now, and virtually every narrative I think fits well with the sort of populist nationalist Breitbart values, if you will, movement. And when Steve Bannon left the White House, a lot of people were skeptical that he was going to be able to increase his power and influence, and you followed him soon after. And now I do feel, largely over the way Afghanistan has been handled, but I do feel like there's been progress made since that's happened for this movement. I feel like there's more wind behind us, and I think the president is actually paying closer attention now than he was necessarily when you guys were inside. Am I wrong? Am I just being optimistic and hopeful, Dr. G, or did the plan actually work?
As employee number one of the Breitbart empire, you nailed it. You nailed it, Alex. I told people the week he resigned, they have no idea. Steve Bannon, once he leaves the building, the social justice warriors may be cracking open their bottles of champagne, but he will become, and he has already become, the most powerful man outside the White House. The president is in regular contact with individuals who have left the administration, soliciting their advice. He is alone. He's surrounded, but he is getting a lot of support. Look at Judge Moore. Look at Corker. Look at what was announced yesterday by the PAC. This is going to be the make or break year. And the Breitbart phenomena, the nationalist economic phenomena, is winning. So everybody listening, have faith. It's about the long game. It's about 8 years, not 8 months.
Yeah, and I do think that this is going to be a fun time for us because we've got because I think the establishment is basically broken, but there are still so many of them hold higher office, and now it's just a matter of picking them off one by one, which is what the plan is. So talk to us more, Dr. G, about the MAGA Coalition and where you guys are right now and how people can keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, right. So the MAGA Coalition, check us out, magacoalition.com. Think of this as the first super PAC for the forgotten men and women who voted for this rank outsider, Donald Trump, to become the president last year. We will be supporting all candidates who are breaking up the stranglehold of the establishment, rhinos especially. We're working closely with Steve and everybody else who believes in what I think is the political revolution that happened last year. Excuse me. We don't represent any special interest. This isn't a pact for lawyers, realtors, tax accountants, or the oil industry. Anybody can join. If you believe that it's time to take the republic back and bring it back to the founding principles on which it was established, join the MAGA coalition and be part of the team that will take the country back.